Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today we are taking a little bit of a break from our redstone factory as I have a few things that I need to plan out in regards to our next step with that. So that will come back very soon. I'm just working out those few little things. So in the meantime, we return to our Witch's Village project, which is over here. You can see our house that we made all the way back in episode 3. It's now episode 11, so it's been a while. We have this first house in the project, and we have our own little custom tree. What else we've got currently in the project is our abandoned mine, which is down over that way, which holds our skeleton farm. Now today, as you've seen from the title and the thumbnail, we are going to be doing some terraforming. So I've cleared out this area to start off with here. I don't think I will get it all done because it is quite a lot of a project. So I'll be happy just to kind of get started along this riverbank and get a few trees in. So as we can see here, we've got quite a large river running along through this birch forest. Here it gets quite narrow and then it goes out over to the ocean in that direction. What I'm planning to do here is we're going to narrow the river eventually. Not yet, because that's a little bit further away from where we want to be working. So we're going to be working along this bank here, all the way maybe into this area where it narrows off. And then we're going to pull some trees back, potentially up to about here-ish. So let's go through some of the inspiration and the thought process behind creating our terraforming. So our inspiration, I have Googled pine forest, and this one here is one that has come up, and this one here, it looks really cool. It is a national park in Finland and it has a river running through it. So that's one of the things that we wanted to look for. And if we come through, we're going to look at our reference images to see some features that we might want to be adding in. So if we have a look at this one here, we can see, of course, the sandbank where it deposits all of the sediment on the inside of the river. We can see this almost becoming an oxbow lake over here. Potentially it already has, and all of that. What I want to now get a look at is some closer shots up. So for example, this one here, we can see the kind of straighter part of the river. We've got, if we zoom in here, little inlets here, potentially little islands cutting in at the edge here. And what I think is really interesting is that you can see the dirt line between the river and the grass here. So that's something that we want to get in, is this dirt line here, and then the grass comes up. And then we can see, of course, the trees, they're very green on this outside bit here, but then if we look inside here, you can see the shadows and it's darker. So obviously on the outside of the trees, we're going to have them very bright, and then inside they get a little bit darker as we go in. The outside edge as well, very populated with shrubs and stuff. We can't quite see into the forest, but using our inference about plant growth, we know that it's going to be a little bit more sparse in that. So we've come into this, we found a reference image that we can use and our inspiration that we can take from, interpret, and then build ourselves into the game. So like with everything, a nice test to plan things out, make sure things is going to work, is always a good idea. So we can see a few different ideas that I've had going from using our moss carpet to get that slight green above. The original thought was to have it like this, but obviously with our little texture pack here, bring it over the sides, you can't see the granite standing out over the edge. So I then went to having full blocks, but I think that's a little bit too high. Then to having some stairs and some walls. But again, same thing there, but I do think that the wall's quite interesting with it having that gap there, and potentially carrying on something like this. So that is an idea that can then be stored away in the mind, and then you can come back to an idea like that in the future. But what I kind of settled on was using rooted dirt here to get the orangey colour, because you can't place any grass on the granite. Otherwise I would have definitely used the granite for that, as it's a little bit easier to get than our rooted dirt. But I quite like the rooted dirt there. It brings a little bit of colour there, and then we've got some grass, some ferns, tall grass, all there forming the edge of our riverbank, and then we've got some moss then going up. Then to add in a little bit of variation, we're going to mix in some grass in with our moss. What we don't want is we don't want the dirt showing, because I don't think that looks particularly good when it comes to this. So we're going to keep our grass all mixed in there in little patches, not just one dotted around, but in little patches here. Then as we work our way back into the forest, what we're going to have is we're going to have a lot more tree cover, so less light is going to be hitting the floor, so it's going to be our soil back here. So we're going to definitely be using our coarse dirt for that. And then we are using a pine forest, so we're going to be having a lot of pine needles falling to the floor, and I think the best texture for that is potentially our dripstone block here, although I'm still not 100% sure on this. So what we may be having is we're going to be having our tree sticking all the way up into the sky, and then right at the bottom we're going to have a few of our dripstone, which is kind of the pine needles, probably have less than that there, and then we'll have some rooted dirt mixed in, all just to create a little bit of variation in how we're building this. So you can see it's a little bit varied, and then we will have a few little smaller shrubs mixed in at the bottom, as when we go back and look at our reference image, you can see a lot of shrubs nearer the bank, and then they get a little bit more gradual in towards the middle, which you can't quite see, of course, because there's a lot of trees in the way. But based on how forests grow, there's a lot less, especially when it comes to pine forests, because they are very consistent with their growth and they block out a lot of the light. With other kinds of forests, you'll have a lot more light level coming through because all of the trees will be slightly different, a lot more different types. So you've got a lot of different vegetation coming through. So that there is our plan. Okay, I've gathered some supplies for this. So I've brought over some dirt, some gravel, some grass, got a lot of bone meal, I've got our moss, and then I've got enough to make a mobile craft on the go, some buckets and stuff like that to get it all ready. So we're going to start off with a rough shape. So I quite like the way that the coast currently goes, so I'm just going to make it short so that this isn't just a straight line here. So we're going to take that out a little bit, bring that out, just so it's not that one big long boring straight line, and it's got that little bit more shape to it. I quite like this island here, so I think we're going to leave that island there, and then we're going to shape it around the coast there. We are going a lot further out because a lot of this is going to be not like that, because of course we're going to loop around trying to keep the river a fairly similar width here, so we're going to come a little bit further out. With our basic shaping done, let's now shape up the little island here. So should we go expand it a little bit, take out the grass, it's nice and easy, a little bit more, there we go, that's a nice little shape there. And then of course we're going to work up one block all the way around like that, and then we can come underneath and then start work on our river bed. So we're going to have it go down maybe 2 blocks at most in this little section here. This bottom layer here is all going to be our rooted dirt, so we're going to bring up absolutely everything around the outside. So our shaping of our coastline there, a little bit nicer, excellent, and then we're just going to flatten that bit there out and around, and then we'll come back in and get some moss and stuff going on. Alright then, so I've made a start on our shape, so I've gone from this point here all the way out over to this point over here, and as you can see there's a few little bits where it cuts in, a few little places where there's some eddies, and that is kind of the rough shape here. It's a little bit rough potentially, so maybe smoothing things out is a good idea. And then on this corner as well, things will be smoother, but this is where we're going to stay for the time being. At the moment, all I've terraformed is kind of up to this height here as a maximum, and then I haven't done anything else beyond that. So we're going to start getting our work in. So that is our moss covering this area. I left this one because that's mainly where we're going to start with the coarse dirt. So we're going to get our moss mainly in here and our rooted dirt in here. Now, one thing that I did do is that I changed a little bit of the ground in here to mud from dirt, just to see how that kind of looked in the area. And I'm unsure on it. I don't know if I'd like something brighter. I quite like how the sand stands out quite a bit, so potentially going for something brighter rather than the dark mud, but we'll have to see when we get our first pass of our terrain in. So the way that we're doing the rooted dirt is that we pop an azalea down, we grow it, and then we can then harvest that on top from there. So I'm going to start off just by changing all of this in to our moss. Now we've got our rooted dirt in place. It will take a little bit of a while, but without a proper farm, this will be the quickest way for us to achieve that. Well, this is quite cool, just a giant wall of trees. I mean, it doesn't stay, but it's kind of funky to look at. In terms of terraforming like this, where it's kind of a little bit more of a gradient, I like to get that first layer in first. So that's our moss down at this layer here. And then we're going to start getting our coarse dirt in next. So the next step, with most terrains that you want to do, this one's a little bit different because we're very flat to the ground. We've got a lot of stuff to remove, but is the wireframing stage. So if you're building a mountain, you're going to want to build lots of wireframes going up, so that you build out the rough shape of your mountain first, and then you fill in those bits after the fact. With this one here, as you can see, I've literally just put in coarse dirt. We're in the ground at the moment. So over here, it'll be out of the ground. As you know, it'll still be in the ground, but we're getting that first layer in just to tell us where the terrain's going to go, and then we can join up all of those wireframes afterwards. We're going for just a gradual incline up. So we're going from the sea, sorry, not the sea, the river over there. And then we're aiming for roughly around this height over here, which is about 71, 72. Where we're currently sat over here, we are at 67. So even then, we've still got another 4 blocks to go up. And I feel like I want to go up a little bit higher up here and then have it drop down. So there's kind of a raise up, and then it's all downhill down to the river. So you can see the first stage of our wireframing. So I've got the cross sections all laid in, and also just a few upwards ones just to get a feel for it and where we need to be putting our coarse dirt in now. So we're going to fill all of this in. You've always got to take a step back and look at things from a distance, because you've got to think about your scale. So the scale is how big it's going to be in the world. Obviously, this is quite a big project. We're only starting a little bit of it today, but we're obviously not going to be seeing it from too close up, as we want to see the effect of it over a large distance. So we can see here the scale. It's still got a little bit of that Minecraft terrainy feel, but it isn't as rough terrain as in this area here or any other plains biome. It's a lot smoother, and that's, you know, it's a little bit more real to real life forests. So the next step of this is to not create an accidental mob farm, as Good Times with Scar would say. We need to light up what is going on underneath here. So with our lighting up all done underneath, we can then start our next phase. So we've done phase 1, we've done the broad brush strokes, we've gotten the base layer in, which is the bottom of our terrain, the ground level. Next, we're going to start zooming in from that big picture. We're then going to zoom in and get our trees in before we zoom in even further and get the details. Now for our trees, we've farmed up some of our resources already. We've done our azaleas, clearing out this bit, so that'll get us our leaves and our oak wood. We have done our birch leaf gathering by clearing out the forest. So that just leaves tuff, which I've got a decent amount of already just from going mining, and then the spruce. So we have to go and specially farm that spruce now. All right, so with our spruce and all of the rest of our leaves already farmed up, we can now look at designing our trees. Now, the plan is that I'm going to build 5 different ones here. We've got 4 already. One we're going to build in a second, but we're going to have those 5 designs. We're going to make a schematic of them using the Matica mod, and then we're going to rotate them in all 4 ways. So that way we actually got 20 air quotes different trees. So let's go through the process. These are heavily BOO inspired trees because he is just an incredible inspiration, and his forest on Hermitcraft is just phenomenal. So they're kind of like his ones. I've tried to style them a little bit, but again, not too much because I do want my own stuff. So the way that we've done this is using his same color palette without the acacia logs to blend in with the tuff. I've just not bothered with that. And of course we've got our azalea leaves for the tops where the light's hitting the most, birch for underneath, and then right in the shadowy bits is the spruce. They're all slightly different, same but different. As we can see, they're getting probably slightly better towards the end as I do a little bit more of them, but these will all be copied and pasted in. So the shape that we're going for is probably lost a little bit on this middle one, so I might tweak that a little bit. But the shape that we're going for is skinny at the top, comes down, out a little bit, and then right at the bottom, it then comes in. So we've got it widest, kind of a little bit up from the bottom. This one here, as you can see, yeah, kind of has got that shape, but maybe we need to bush out maybe this middle one. So to begin, we come over with our trunk here. This is about 40 blocks tall, so they're quite tall trees, and we're just going to start off by just adding a few little bits just to the top. Not too much, as we want this to be the skinniest part, just sticking out over the tree line. And then we move down, adding in a few more of our azalea bushes, poking out from there. And then we start bringing in some birch leaves, as they're that little bit darker, just to bring that feeling that the light isn't quite reaching these as much as the azalea ones. And then the ones right on the edge there, I'm going to pop our azalea leaves in instead of the birch, because they're a little bit more on the edge. And then I'm going to come down, we're going to kind of almost keep a block in between each kind of little layer. So you can see here, there's a bit of breathing room for our trees as the branches wouldn't be going all the way over. And again, just a nice platform for our leaves. A good angle to look down is that top one. So we come down from the top and we can see that sticks out far too much for the height of our tree currently. So we're going to cut that back. And then, okay, we're looking a bit nicer. So now we can keep moving down, keep expanding out by potentially a block every single time. So it's always good to get those different angles of your shot. So we can see this one here, it's got that nice shape going down it. I'm quite happy with how it is at the moment. Potentially we can bushy some things up a little bit, but at the moment we're only about 4 blocks out from the tree trunk based off of our shape at the moment. And then we're going down, we've still got a little bit further to go. We're leaving about 10 blocks of room between the floor and the very bottom there. And you always want to look at the angle of your branches as well. So you don't always want to have them just straight out. So this one here, we're coming out on a diagonal, just surrounding that circle there. So the further we come down the tree, the more our leaves are just going to be those odd-shaped platforms that are just quite large, leaving a bit of a gap, popping a few bits of bushiness in there. If you're not fully happy with it, you've got to think, is it a standalone tree? Because if it's just a tree on its own, then you really want to be happy with it. But if it's in a forest, then you don't need to be as happy with it because you can blend it in. You just need to be happy with those at the edge. So now we're right at the bottom. We're going to start bringing our kind of tree back inwards again. So it's going to need a few bits just sticking out to bring it all the way back in. I think that we're almost good. Let's have a quick fly around. Let's add a few more leaves underneath here. And there we go. So they're not perfect, but with it mixed in with all of the other trees, all the other rotations, it's going to look like a really nice forest. Whoa, a whole forest has now taken shape. Well, maybe not a whole forest. 18 trees doesn't really count as a whole forest. And I haven't even filled in the bits where we've actually terraformed right to the edge. But I am running short on time. So at the moment, 18 trees is all I can muster. But, you know, it's a good start. It's good progress. I'm going to actually split this into a cliffhanger. We're going to get the small details in the next episode. And we're just going to be content with getting in the main bit of groundwork and also a large chunk of some trees. So as we can see, they are looking good from a distance. Let's go even further back, shall we, all the way up to the top of this hill. You can see that really standing out, looking a lot better than the birch trees around. Of course, it looks a little bit weird at the moment, but once we get it blended into the landscape, at the front here, it'll look a lot more normal because it won't just be that harsh jump up. We'll have a little bit of blending via the smaller plants and the smaller details looking through. But that's all well and good. How is it looking from the ground? There we go. Feels like we're walking through a forest. Again, we haven't got that much in, so it does feel limited, but it does look very nice. And it's clear to see what we've achieved today and what we still have left to achieve with the rest of it. So just imagine a huge sprawling forest coming all the way back up to the village, going all the way out that way, all the way out that way, all the way around. It's a big project, but we're here for a while. Next time, tree puns. Well, maybe we need to branch out a bit more with the forest. Tree puns. Or maybe we just need to stick with it. And tree puns. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and leave a like on the video. Thank you all for watching. Now I apologise that we have to split this into 2 parts, but in order to get this out on time, I have to. So this episode we have gotten our flooring, our shaping, and our trees done, which leaves next episode as the small detail work. Now that's going to be very intense, and it's going to really bring this whole place to life. So I hope you'll join me for that next week. The best way to do that is by subscribing. So make sure you subscribe, leave a like and a comment as well. It really helps me out here on the channel. And hopefully, once you've done that, I'll see you later. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.